for them because of the journey they've been on. But when you think about the heart, who's going to get it done in crunch time? Who's going to make the biggest plays when it matters most? Middleton is the guy you see they go to get the buckets when they need them.
But even that has been an evolution because Leg said it last week on the show, Tim Legler. He said that the absence of Giannis forces Coach Bud to be a little bit more creative in the clutch. Now, they didn't necessarily run up on a buzzer beater game since Giannis has been out, but the default of give the ball to our two-time MVP and Defensive Player of the Year and get out of the way is no longer an option.
Well, you don't have that option because he's not that guy.
But that's the part.
Most guys, like Kevin Durant, you give him the ball and get out of the way. You can't do that with Giannis.
Right. He's not that guy. On paper, if you just were to go off of accolades and the guy that is the engine of this squad, the undoubted leader in terms of energy and intensity, you might think it is. But when you really get into the basketball X's and O's, he's not that guy because his skill set, quite honestly, is limited. He just has the ability to overpower defenders.
This guy's won 2 MVPs.
It is
and
wild.
Yet we talk about how he has a limited skill set.
But because he does. He just does what he does so well.
Can you think of another MVP that we have had in the history of the NBA where you would say that about? Where, like he puts up big stats, his team wins, but he's limited. But Shaq, people say that about. Shaq was another guy who couldn't hit free throws, but it wasn't to an embarrassing level. I never felt like he was where crowds were counting and mocking Giannis at Atlanta to a point where it was I was embarrassed for him.
But we got
MVP and they're mocking him.
But I think you got to get into the words here. If I may tap into my English degree, love the whole English class. Limited and elite at their position to me are different things. When I think of Shaq, he was elite at his position.
Dominant,
right? Like nobody could touch that. But you also are not putting Shaq on the three-point line. And that's not even what we were doing in Shaq's heyday in terms of that position.
Yeah.
For Giannis, I think limited comes into play because Giannis does not camp out in the paint. And now some of that is the byproduct of today's game. But every time he go to take a three, what does he hit? 2 out of 10?
It looks like Elaine from Seinfeld 10, dancing.
Maybe.
I got to be honest.
Then we're reminded, oh yeah. Or every time he gives me a turnaround fadeaway jumper being guarded by one-legged James Harden or Trae Young for that matter, I see the limitations. What are we doing?
Well, let's ask Vince Carter. Let's bring him right in. If anybody would know, it certainly is him, our ESPN NBA analyst joining us right now on the Goodyear Hotline. Vince, good morning. So,
good morning, guys. How you doing?
Good. So you heard some of that. I mean, it's not to be. You hesitate so much to sound like you're being disrespectful, right? The guy did win 2 MVPs. The guy has, put up unbelievable numbers. He's had a tremendous, career. But yet, when I watch him, I just think about how we have this guy who's at that level when it comes to all the trophies on his trophy case. And yet, can you think of another player at that level that yet has such limitations to his game?
When Monica said that, I was sitting here thinking, I was like, man, who could I pick? Or I couldn't think of anybody like that. But I say this about Giannis. When Giannis is aggressive and downhill, there's not many that can stop him. I think he limits himself because he settles for jump shots sometimes. But think about it. As players, and Monica, I think you can attest to this. As players, when you're working on the next facet of your game, for him, the jump shot outside of the paint, the three-point shot. He's always hearing people talk about he needs to develop a shot. Well, at some point, you have to see if it works in the game. You have to. And I think sometimes he's doing that and he sees results. He sees it going in sometimes. And sometimes, when they were blowing out the Hawks one game, and I noticed he was downhill. They were up 25. He settled for that three-point shot to see where he is with it, because that's the time to work on it. And I feel like sometimes you have to work on that shot. So in the heat of battle, when you need a bucket, you go to what works. But at some point, I'm going to use this story with John Collins. We were working on his three-point shot. We were working on a jump hook with the left hand. And I said, sometimes it's great in practice, but you have to use it in the real game, in real time against some of the best players before you can feel comfortable using it. So, that's what you get sometimes.
I know that technically VC is now my colleague and we're like all in this together, but it is so dope to say something and then you, this man who's excellent, come and confirm what I had to say in terms of Giannis making himself limited. It is a little bit puzzling. All right, but let's get into this series as it stands. VC, and we've been going with this question all morning. In terms of legacy, which side of the coin, who needs this more, Chris Paul or Giannis?
It's such a tough question. And when you're talking about legacy, I'll say this about Giannis. Giannis has time. And if they can keep this team together, you could see them potentially in the finals often, or at least in the conference final. Of course, I think Chris Paul has established himself, as far as a legacy is concerned. This is just adding to it. This is icing on the cake, in my opinion. Now you have some of the greats of the game who didn't win a championship or didn't make it to the finals and are in the Hall of Fame. Chris Paul will be in the Hall of Fame. But Chris Paul is year 16. He's the old guy, so of course I'm gonna have to lean that way and say, he's closer to walking away from the game than Giannis is. So of course Chris Paul would want and need this a little more than Giannis right now.
See, that's a great way to put it. It's the window, right? That's how we always talk about is runway. How much runway?
Trust me, I'm with you on that one.
Man, I didn't want to say it, BC, but all right. I mean, you did bring it up, so fine. But how about react to something though? Because you know how we always do this too about players and about their teams, especially when you get this far. It's like he's the heart and soul of the team, right? And it's always your best player is sort of your leader. That's always the way it's supposed to be. But with the Bucks, we're kind of learning that they're probably more team than we thought, even with a two-time MVP, even with a guy like Giannis and all his accolades. Drew Holiday said this. He said that Giannis is the soul of the team. Chris Middleton is the heart of the team. Can you have it that way? Can you have one guy represent one thing and one guy represent the other? And is that what the Bucks are to you?
Well, I played on the team with Jason Kidd, and Jason Kidd was our leader, but he led by example. He wasn't our vocal leader. I was kind of the one who, I learned who Jason Kidd was and what he meant. Of course, when he stepped into a huddle and he had something to say, everybody's like, "Oh man, he's yelling, he's talking. Let's listen." He led by example. Steve Nash led by example. I think Giannis is one of those guys who leads by example. I think another guy who I consider the heart and soul of the team and keeps them afloat is Bobby Portis. Bobby Portis brings what they need for them, and that energy when they're slow and they're in mud. They put I call him the battery pack for a reason. They inserted him, and look at what happened to that team. He brought life to that team, and he brought life to a team that was already darn good, and he made them better, and it made it tough for the Hawks to beat them, even with Trae Young back.
So look, here's the question now, VC, because when Chris Paul came back after game 2, we saw a little sputtering, shall we call it, by the Phoenix Suns, just kind of acclimating to Chris Paul back on the floor in this particular series. Giannis, obviously, this Bucks squad is probably better with Giannis on the floor, big picture. But is it going to be more valuable, I guess, if he can play game 1, or does he need to get a feel for the series and kind of be able to pick his spots from an observer standpoint when he gets reinserted? Because there's no doubt going to be a little bit of, is Drew and Middleton still the 1A, 1B? Now we got to get Giannis back in.
But, when you're playing in the finals. So if they can get Giannis back, you want Giannis on the floor. He demands attention regardless of where he is with his health. At the same time, I'm telling Drew Holiday, I'm telling Chris Middleton for sure, and then my big. I need the same game from you. Because you want Giannis to take his time. Maybe you don't play him as many minutes early so he can get himself back into game shape and playing shape, because he's been away from the game for a while now, Giannis, that is. So I want my 4 guys, and that's Holiday, Middleton, and both my bigs and Portis and Lopez, to stay aggressive and let Giannis work his way back. The one thing for Giannis that is great is if he doesn't settle, he plays in the paint. So it's a little easy. You go down there, post up, and you feature him. But I still want Lopez right here, what we're seeing in this video right here. I want him in the paint. I want Bobby Portis in the paint, knocking guys out, getting me in the penalty so Middleton can be aggressive and drive and knock down shots.
I love that. I think that's going to be such a critical matchup. And, that's exactly like Lopez has to be that floor spacer to allow Giannis to have that room in the paint. But when he's not out there, Brook, when he played for the Nets, was one of the best, footwork in the post big man that we had left in the game.
And he was my rookie, by the way. I mean, probably every guy that I played with was probably my rookie or close to it. Mark, I knew you were about to say that, so I beat you to it. I knew you were about to say that. So
I love you,
It's okay. I can accept it. But that's the thing. So I agree. You have to post Giannis, and you have to utilize his ability to score. Yes, so you spread the floor out. But when Giannis goes out, I'm throwing him Brook Lopez. It is. I'm throwing him in the post, and I'm remaining aggressive and attacking the paint. Yes, now you spread Bobby Portis out there. Yes, he can shoot the ball and he's going to rebound. You don't post up Bobby Portis as much. You get the mismatches, yes, but 1A and 1B as far as posting up. Giannis is my go-to guy early, and then when you take him out, Brook Lopez, your turn. Continue to beat these guys up in the paint.
All right, we're doing a deep dive tomorrow in the series, but somebody just tweeted, and I feel this. They're like, how y'all doing the show and nobody's mentioned Ayton? Let me just be clear. Monica McNutt is team DeAndre Ayton. Heavy, heavy, heavy. So real quick,
He's been great.
All right, talk to me about his evolution and what this matchup